used to make a ton of secret school gadgets back in the day before the internet existed, and in this video, I'm going to show you 10 of my favorites, starting with this.
It's illegal in 9 countries.
This bite-sized bow and arrow could fire ink projectiles at your enemies with pinpoint accuracy. All you needed to make one was a single big pen, a rubber band, and then some way to poke a hole in the pen so you could insert this piece right through the middle. Secure the rubber band at both ends and you were good to go. It was probably right around 5th or 6th grade when I saw one of these for the first time, and it sounds dramatic to say, but it changed my life. There was no internet back then. We had 7 TV channels total. There were a handful of cool magazines like Sports Illustrated for Kids, Mad, cartoons, but there was never anything like this. So finding out that someone had taken just a boring household object from the kitchen junk drawer and transformed it into something that we saw in Rambo First Blood Part 2, I was never the same. It did kind of have one major problem though. You had to cut that hole in the middle of it. So even at a time when it seemed like switchblades and butterfly knives were everywhere, hollowing that hole out was still kind of a dicey proposition for a 10-year-old Mr. Reboot. And that is exactly why we made this. With a little less work and a little less bloodshed, you could take those same raw materials and transform them into a slightly stealthier version of a pen bow with comparable performance and no cutting or drilling required. Penzookas started popping up everywhere. The blueprint for this super easy to make beginner battle pen spread far and wide from class to class and then from school to school. Maybe it didn't quite look as cool as the pen bow, so you might have felt a little less like him and a little more like him. But does it still work just as good today as it did back then? Yep, of course, with great power came great irresponsibility. Penzookas were being confiscated right and left. Rumors were being spread. Tommy Two Shanks lost an eyeball in Taylorsville. Becky Beanstalk took a pen shot to the kneecap at Kearns Junior High. So if you were an enthusiast of extracurricular pen activities, now was a good time to lay low. Enter this.
Perfect!
If you thought Penzookas were easy to make, it doesn't get any easier than folding a Post-it note into a V-shape and then stretching a rubber band between your thumb and finger like a slingshot and just letting it rip. These were painful. We called the folded version a wasp, and the rolled version was a hornet. There were probably a dozen or more well-known variations, most of which, like the Cobra, were pretty much an immediate ticket to ISS or the principal's office. But just a quick word to the wise, if you do still engage in the dark paper arts, legend has it that the ghost of Becky Beanstalk still walks the earth to this day. They say if you're real quiet on a Friday night, and you put your ear up to an old Care Bear's lunchbox, you can still hear the demonic click of that rusty old kneecap. Click. This one was genius because of how simple and stealthy it was. Paper hornets may have been physically painful, but this was psychologically effective. It looked like a normal mechanical pencil because that's all it was. Just pop the top off, insert a staple, and then pull to fire. No noise and no jerky movements. Also, no need to worry about losing your staple because you could stash plenty more hidden away inside the barrel. The staple shooter never really made its way to my school back in the day. I just think we probably didn't use a lot of mechanical pencils. But its reputation as a top-tier silent assassin was legendary. So while we were busy getting our pens and paper shooters confiscated, there was a smart subculture on the other side of town that were silently shooting staples into their friends' and enemies' hair. So jealous. Which is why we took a page out of their playbook, and the most devious among us added one of these to our own arsenal.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Cut the top off that same mechanical pencil, flare out the cut till an eraser fits in there snug, then just attach the spring to the top of the lead chamber and reinsert it. Give a quick thumb press and embrace your inner bad dude. It was obviously way less stealthy, a lot harder to make, and you weren't fooling anyone if you got caught with it, but it's also probably the funnest one on this list. There was just something special about seeing the startled jolt of your adversary as you pinged him right in the forehead and then watched that rubber eraser bounce off into the atmosphere. Plus, you were pretty safe punishment-wise because you knew it really wasn't going to hurt anybody. Unlike this one.
Son
son of a nutcracker!
Origami had a huge cultural moment back in the day. I remember making about 100 cranes and hanging them up all over school. You'd rent an origami book from the library and just be totally blown away by all the colorful pictures of these intricate, handcrafted works of art. So naturally, our first instinct was, how can we weaponize this? Eventually, with nothing more than a single sheet of paper from your Trapper Keeper, folded in half here, then folded in half again, it was super easy to unlock the most likely to be wounded by a gym teacher award. So really the most dangerous part of a paper popper is not that it would hurt other people, but that it could get you hurt if you ever decided to deploy it around someone who didn't like loud surprises. So don't do that one at school because karma will catch up to you, and for us, karma came in the shape of a bent up bobby pin.
Who taught you how to do this stuff?
I can't say for sure who invented these, but my own mom remembers kids having these in her high school back in the 70s. All it takes to make is 2 bends and a little bit of surface texture for grip. It does take a little bit of practice to prime it just right, and you're definitely gonna take some friendly fire in the process. But that satisfying snap is well worth the effort. A harmless female hair accessory was not on my radar as an option for inflicting pain back then. Just finding a bobby pin in the first place sometimes was tough enough. Plus my older sister always hit really hard, so being busted searching through her bathroom stuff usually wasn't worth it. The mosquito was definitely a game changer though. Kids started making cool and creative things out of all kinds of stuff. Nothing was off limits, including your lunch tray, and that's when this came along.
This day just keeps getting better.
The year is 1990-something. You're sitting in the school cafeteria thinking about crisscross. They are so cool. Staring at your food, knowing you're not gonna eat that carrot, so you stab it with the end of an empty pen, flip it around, stab it with the other side, and now you're stuck with a couple pen plugs. Better push those out quick before the lunch lady sees. The pop pen was born, and a food fight began. You weren't supposed to leave school grounds during lunch in junior high, so cafeterias were always crowded and loud. But somehow that perfectly pitched could always cut through the noise, and it wasn't uncommon to hear a couple in quick succession, thanks to the few and the proud who stayed ready at all times. But it also wasn't uncommon to take a tater tot to the face once they found out it was you. So once the cafeteria was cooked, we'd spend our time in shop class where the teacher actually showed us how to make these.
Today, you are a man.
These guys might have been our middle school heroes, but our shop class and woodworking teachers were the real MVPs. This toothpick shooter was next level. With just a few careful cuts on the bandsaw, they showed us how to transform a clothespin, a rubber band, and a toothpick into the crown jewel of our collection. Maybe these were a little harder to make and power tools did kind of feel like cheating, but the cool factor was off the charts. I think the unspoken agreement between teachers at the time was kids are gonna make stuff anyway, so we might as well show them how to make it right. And they did, but as you can also see, they nerfed us. How dare they care about our health and safety out of the kindness of their own hearts? So annoying. Not ones to be outdone by a teacher and clearly thinking we know best, we came up with our worst idea yet, which also just happens to be the most powerful invention on our list.
Take a look.
In a true full circle moment, we came back to basics and then put those basics on steroids. Cutting the top off a 20-ounce soda bottle and stretching a balloon over the end gave us a superior pen bow replacement that would shoot whatever you could fit inside it, fast and far. And obviously with that kind of firepower in our pocket, it didn't take long for us to go from masters of the universe to masters of our own demise. As the sweet sound of a hypersonic skittle shattering a window marked the end of an era with an extra loud exclamation point. Announcements were made, supplies were confiscated, and most of us were either suspended or just grounded into oblivion. So if you're a kid watching this, don't be stupid. And if you're a parent watching this, don't sue me. But most importantly, if you are a school teacher watching this, thank you. No sarcasm there, just a sincere thank you to all of you for everything that you do. Because Lord knows the rest of us don't want to do it.